everyone, welcome to Natural Triana.
Hi guys, we wanted to do a video today about how we met and how we have changed our lifestyle. So we met in 2009, I think?
Yeah.
2009. And the way that we met was because I had just broken up with somebody and I was over at my friend's house and I told her that it sounds really shallow, but I really wanted to be with somebody who was black because my ex-boyfriend was half black. And that just goes to show at the time what I was very heavily influenced by society and I had these certain standards set for myself. So she's like, oh, I have the perfect person for you to meet. And so she invited her friend over and then Korey. And 3 days later, I was pregnant with our daughter, who is now 6. And we've been together while I was pregnant. We were together in the beginning and then we kind of stopped talking in the middle of it, and then towards the end, right before our daughter was born, we started talking again and we were back together, and then we've just been together since. So back then, that was when we were living in Illinois, and we were both, I was only 19 at the time when I had our daughter, and you were 21. So, he had just turned 21, and we were both like into drinking and going out, and we didn't go out like every night or anything, but I was working, going to school full time, and then on the weekends we would still go out with our friends. So that's something that I wish we really could have taken back, or me anyway, because I spent so much time away from my daughter during the week, even because I was going to school and working full time, and then I would still choose, because I thought that was like what you do, like you're young, you go out, you go do these things, it's what like you're supposed to do. And no one even ever said anything different, because everybody always told us that like we were so responsible, because we always like took care of our daughter and stuff like that. And then my mom would just watch her on the weekends, and which she loved, so she didn't have a problem with it, or his grandparents would. So we did that. I mean, we ate the standard American diet.
I thought I was eating healthy. I would eat Subway almost every single day for lunch. I thought it was healthy. I listened to all the
Starbucks
marketing.
in the morning. You'd have like turkey bacon.
Yes, green tea every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we still, but then we would, like when you go out drinking and then afterwards you go like through and get like fast food, so we were still doing that, and we would still just eat like fast food every once in a while, but we were working out, and we thought that balanced it. So we started working out when she was probably 6 months old, something like that. It was like very soon after she was born, and we did that for a really long time. So we were taking like the protein, but it's like the whey protein, and we were taking the pre-workout, and we were like doing all these things that we thought were good for us. So we thought it was okay that every once in a while we would splurge on fast food or something like that. We just never thought any different of it. And then our daughter's diet was very typical and terrible. As soon as she was 4 months old, I gave her the cereal, like the rice cereal that they always tell you. The doctors recommend you start out with, and then after that you give them the baby food. So she was eating very, very early by my standards, not by society's standards, and I never thought anything of it. We did give her, the one thing that we thought was good that we were doing with her was as soon as she was off of, I only breastfed her for about 6 months, and I really would have liked to go longer, but it was really hard while I was working full-time and while I was going to school. So I just didn't, like, I started drying up and just didn't get to breastfeed her for nearly as long as I wanted to. Really, I think that the baby should be the one deciding when she doesn't need the milk anymore, not the mom saying, okay, I'm done, like, you know, we're not doing this anymore. So I started giving her formula full-time. I was supplementing formula though, since she was in the hospital, because they recommended that to me. I had a C-section, and that was one of the things that they tell you is that they, you know, like, so that I could rest and recover, they were giving her formula supplement in the nursery. And again, I didn't think anything of it at the time either, which now I would never use formula. But anyway, so at around probably 6 months, she started going on formula full time. And then they tell you after a year they can be on like cow's milk or some kind of milk alternative. And your sister was getting soy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, his mom, Korey's mom, thought that like soy milk was better than cow milk because of like the hormones and stuff that was in it, and his sister's quite a few years younger than him. And
that's what was out then. Is soy is so much healthier than normal milk.
Everything was about soy. So, we were giving her soy milk after she turned a year old, and she got that. I mean, it wasn't even like organic or, I mean, it was just the regular,
it was silk soy milk, which is the worst kind that you can get.
Right. It was the original one, so it didn't have like the flavoring in it, like the vanilla flavoring, but it was still.
It actually still does. It just doesn't have as much. It still has flavoring.
Okay. So she got that for a really, really long time until it was after. So she got that from 6 months, and then we ended up moving here when she was almost 3. And at that time, we started looking into like everything that we were doing. Well, I was the one that started looking into everything. So when we moved here, I was able to be home with her for the first time since she was born, because I had always worked and gone to school. And I was still going to school, but I was doing it all online. So I was able to just be home with her all the time. And she was almost 3 then, so I just had a lot of time on my hands being with her. And at that time as well, we were still really into like TV and stuff and electronics. And she had her own iPad since she was really, really, really young, because when I had got a new iPad, I gave her my old one. So she was really, I think she was really attached to it, and it was because of us. I mean, we put it in front of her. It's so much easier for parents to just give them that than to interact with them and do something else. So she was just used to having that, and so I did have a lot of time on my hands because she would go and like watch TV a lot. I mean, almost the whole day. We would still like play together and do things, but for the majority of the time, I think she was either like watching TV on, you know, like the television that we had, or she was on her iPad like playing games or something. So at that time, I started looking at different blogs and stuff, and I realized, I think it was first I realized the chemicals that were in the food that we were eating. I was looking at things like high fructose corn syrup and like white sugar, white flour, fast food in general. I think that's pretty much it. Like dyes. It's starting to rain, so we're gonna move up on the porch. Okay, so I was also looking at the dyes and everything that they put in stuff because our daughter was being fed, like, she would have like macaroni and cheese, like the Easy Mac cups for dinner, or like ramen noodles, and anything really that she would eat, and it was just like something simple. But that was just really, like that was what we learned from our families and just from the society around us, and we just thought that that was normal. So for breakfast, she would have something like white toast with maybe jelly on it. And then for lunch, she would have like the macaroni and cheese. And then for her snacks, she was having, like the fruit snacks. And those are just filled, everything, all of that is just filled with garbage. So I started, like looking at everything we were really giving her. She was really the main reason why we started changing everything. We really wanted to do it for her and then for our future children. So she wasn't getting like the fruit, she was still getting fruit snacks, but I would give her like the fruit snacks that didn't have the artificial dyes in them, the artificial colors, or the ones that had like more natural things. So we did make a lot of changes, and we also started eating organic. So we were still eating like processed meats, and we were eating tons of dairy, like ice cream and cheese and butter and ghee. Like we were eating all of that stuff, which are considered like health foods. Like ghee is really, that's supposed to be like a good fat for you. So we were eating that kind of stuff, but it was like all organic, and it was supposed to be better. So we ate like that for almost 2 years, I think. We would make like changes, not that one, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, about a year and a half, I'd say. But yeah, it changed throughout.
Yeah, it changed. Like we would make, like we would learn something, and so I would make a change with that. And also in the beginning, when we started making the food changes, I was looking at our cosmetics and stuff, like things that we were putting on our body, because up until that point I had no idea about any of that either. It was just something we didn't think about. And then when I changed all of that, I also changed all of our cleaning products in our home, because we learned about, like just all the chemicals that was in all of that, and you can just use like a few ingredients. Like I use vinegar and water and some lavender essential oil to clean almost everything in the house. And at first I was overwhelmed because I wanted to change everything at once. I was like, oh my God, we have all these chemicals around us, and I just wanted to like get rid of everything and just have everything natural. But then I realized how simple it was, because now, like I said, I use one thing to clean almost everything. And at first I started making my own makeup out of like ground, like
vegetable.
Yeah, like vegetables and like
powders.
Yeah, powders. So I was doing that, like making my own makeup. I first bought it from somebody who made it herself, and then I noticed that she added some stuff in it to preserve it. So then I was like, well, I think I could just make it myself. And at the time I was just still feeling like I needed to wear makeup. So it was just something extra that I did, and that did take a little bit extra time, but it was way better than the stuff that they, like sell in the stores and everything. So we switched our shampoo. We stopped buying like lotion with synthetic fragrances in it. That was the main one. And we were using I was using shaving cream and all of that stuff. You just have to look on the back of the ingredients. And what I did, because they put so much crap in everything, but in the beginning I would just memorize like a couple of them, so that when I went to the store, if I picked something up, and I did this for food too, not just products, I would turn around, like look at the back, and I would see those two and be like, okay, we're not even, we're not getting this. That made it a lot easier too. Now if you, that was at that time, I also went by, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't be putting it on your body or in your body. Now we're even more simplified than that, because I don't wear makeup almost at all. Every once in a while I still do wear mascara, which I'm trying to stop. But that's one thing that everybody had always complimented me on my eyelashes, like when I used to wear tons of makeup and stuff. And it's just, there's some things you have to work on because it's like implanted in you. And that's one thing for me, is I don't wear like the cover up or eyeliner or anything, blush anymore. But every once in a while, if I go somewhere, I will put mascara on, which he thinks is stupid. But it's something, I wear it less and less and less all the time. So I'm working on it. So then around September, it was September of 2015, last year, he started watching documentaries, right?
Yeah, we had, at that point, we pretty much stopped doing a lot of the other stuff we were doing, like watching TV shows and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started watching documentaries on, we had Amazon Prime. The only reason we had it is because we ordered stuff from Amazon. So I started watching stuff on that.
Right, so we didn't have like cable or anything like that. We still had the TV, but we would hook up like our computer or something to the TV to watch the documentaries. And then our daughter, though, she was still watching. So she wasn't watching TV on a TV, but she was watching TV shows on her iPad. So she was still engaging in that like quite a bit. Go ahead. Documentaries. Go ahead.
Sorry, my dog's starting to go in our watermelon patch.
Come here, Pepper. Come here.
I don't want to
Stay over here.
We started watching, or I started watching the documentaries mostly, and she would eventually start watching it as well because they make it so interesting depending on what it's about. But I started watching all kinds of documentaries on food. Whatever documentary I could find on food that was on Amazon Prime, I watched. And it was even most of the same people that were in all of them, between the farming ones and eating naturally ones, which is where I first got the idea of eating raw, because that's where they really talk about it. A lot of it's in these documentaries.
And at that time, too, one thing we really wanted to do was grow our own stuff, like have a farm. We wanted to have a sustainable farm. So we were still into, we were more into like the fruits and vegetables, but we were still into like using animals and stuff like that. And that's where a lot of the documentaries came from.
Mm-hmm. I can't even remember what any of the names are for them. But I remember there was one that was specifically about eating raw. It was mostly about eating raw vegetables, though, and these superfoods. But it really started to change what we were doing then. And we started to eat more vegetables and stuff because we've seen how, obviously it's way healthier to eat vegetables than animal products. But we were still eating the animal products at first until we watched a documentary that came on Amazon called Cowspiracy, which I think now is a horrible documentary, but at the time...
Not completely horrible, I think.
I think it is.
Because if we wouldn't have watched it, it wouldn't have made us change.
No, it made us change right then and now.
Yeah.
But I knew anyways that I was going to have to stop eating meat. I just was finally coming into the understanding that it was actually healthy too. I didn't know it was healthy to it before.
No, not with that one though.
No, I'm talking about when I was watching the other documentaries about eating raw. I started to come into the understanding that you don't need to eat meat. And I knew I wasn't going to need to because I was very spiritual at the time even, and I didn't want to hurt animals even then, but I thought that you needed the stuff from animals to be able to sustain yourself. But then we watched Cowspiracy, and
overnight.
It's right. The documentary is really about global warming, but they show you a lot of animal cruelty, and they give you all these crazy numbers, really, which made us change and stop eating meat pretty much that day.
The movie ended, and I told him, I was like, well, what do you think? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I'm not going to eat meat or animal products ever again. And it was mostly, though, because that movie, or the documentary, is so based on the environment, and we were more into the environment at that point. We still are now, but it was more about the environment than about, like the health of our body. We didn't know at that point, we were just doing it for like the ethical and environmental reasons. And so I threw away everything that we had, besides a couple things with our daughter. Like, we stopped eating it the next day, and then we had a couple things, like we had ghee left that I was still using like on her bread, like for breakfast in the morning, and so we just let her use up like a couple things because we weren't looking at the health aspect of it. It was just like, well, we have these couple things that she's used to eating, so we'll just let her, finish these up and get her. It was just like a easier transition, I guess. So then
she never liked eating meat in the first place.
No, she never liked eating meat, which is why she would eat like the Easy Mac and the ramen noodles and like all of that, all stuff like that. It was mostly like bread. And she did go to preschool for like a year, and then I started going back to work as well when she went to school. And we just thought that that's what we wanted to do with her at the time, was put her in the school system, because we thought that it was, like the right thing to do. And so she was eating, like her breakfast would be toast. And then for lunch, she would have a grilled cheese. So that's more bread and cheese. And then she would have, like her snack would be cucumbers. That was one fruit that she did eat, was like cucumbers, or sometimes I would send an apple or something like that, like a piece of fruit. And then for dinner, it was always like, she would usually have plain pasta with like butter on it.
Pasta, or we'd make pizza, which is all crust was made of wheat.
Right. So grains. We weren't eating like any fruit hardly, pretty much at all, and some vegetables, but our diet was really based around meat, dairy, eggs. We ate tons of eggs because we thought that they were really, really good for you. So our breakfast for me and him would be, he would eat like 4 or 5 eggs in the morning, and I would have 2 or 3 in the morning with bread, like with toast. So yeah, overnight we completely stopped all of that. So we were still eating a lot of bread though, because we didn't really know how to transition from going from all of this like heavily dense and fat food to, like we kind of didn't know what to eat. So we really relied on like wheat products.
Which we thought that they were healthy, especially the ones we were eating. We were eating spelt grains, kamut,
quinoa, a lot of quinoa.
The ones that we're told are healthier for us because they're not as heavy on our digestive
Right,
system.
so it wasn't like white processed, like pastas and stuff, but it was still processed because you're putting it into that pasta form. So we would have like lots of bread. I don't know, like I would make the pizza still, but I would just make it without cheese, so it would just be like sauce with vegetables and then the crust. So we still kind of, ate somewhat similar things, but I would take the meat or the dairy out of it, the animal product out of it.
So we're eating a lot of salads.
A lot of salads,
a lot of oil.
Mm-hmm. Because our salads, we would make, like me and him would make these huge salads, and then I would make a dressing for it, which was olive oil. So I would use like a ton of olive oil on the salads. And we would throw like all these vegetables together because we were just trying to get like a ton of stuff in. And my stomach, both of our stomachs would be like hurting after we ate this ginormous salad that it looked like really healthy because it had all these different vegetables in it, but we're like, why do we feel like crap? It was just so hard for our stomachs to digest all of those different things, plus the oil, and we were still eating salt at the time. And we were also eating lots of herbs and just different things like that. So the only thing we were really cutting out was like the meat and the dairy, like all animal products. So then shortly after, I I started looking into like raw food out of curiosity. You know, I guess because a lot, like when you look up a lot of vegan things, I was trying to look up like more that we could eat because it was
also around that time we got big into herbs. We bought $300 worth of herbs from Mountain Rose Herbs, which is a website online, and very shortly after that we stopped eating all of them.
So we have all these herbs now.
Yeah, we're still going through them over a year later.
So what was I saying?
You started reading.
Oh, I started looking because when you look into like a lot of vegan things, because I was looking at more stuff that we could eat because it was mostly, you know, like these grains and beans and for dinner it would be like pasta
Right.
with like vegetables in it.
Also, right during that time, which she's seen this a couple times as well, but I found that I always tried to find like what we originally ate as humans. That was always what I was looking for in every aspect of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the alkaline and acidic balance, which is what they even use back in Egypt and everything. And
Ava,
that's really
let her be.
what we started to make our look at for our diet was, is it alkaline or acidic? And we just started to eat all kinds of alkaline foods at that point as well.
Right. So when I was looking up, like, for vegan ideas, a lot of things come up raw vegan. So then, just out of curiosity, I was looking into a raw vegan, and it was just kind of like, it just made sense that you know, like, it was more calorically dense than vegetables, and it made sense why we were, you know, eating all these vegetables, but we were still hungry and we were still looking for like other alternatives and stuff. So then we started incorporating more fruit, and we did that pretty quickly, where we were having like smoothies. So we were putting powders and stuff in them at
We were
first.
putting chia seeds, hemp seeds,
Lots of stuff. Spirulina,
I can't think of what it is, starts with a C.
chlorella.
Chlorella, kale, tons of kale on it, spinach.
Yeah, so we would have that for breakfast, like a big green smoothie with all these different things in it. So we were still adding a bunch of things together.
Because you know, when you read stuff on the internet, they tell you that you need all of this different types of nutrients and minerals.
Right.
So we were trying to
Incorporate a ton of different things to make sure we were covering everything.
not just covering. I mean, like going way
Right.
over, because that's how I always figured. Well, if this is what makes you healthy, I'm going to eat an insane amount of it.
Right. So we were eating like smoothies for breakfast, and then lunch. We were still eating like a salad for lunch, and then dinner would be like, I guess we were eating fruit for dinner most days.
Not fruit.
No,
No, we
another
didn't.
salad.
Yeah, we didn't start
We-
eating fruit until we stopped eating the oils.
I guess we started eating more fruit like throughout the day, like I guess I wouldn't call it like lunch, you know, like we didn't have like a big meal of fruit for lunch, but it would be like, you know, that smoothie would fill you up for quite a long time because of all the different stuff that was in it, made you feel like full, and it took a long time to digest. So then we would have like just different kinds of fruit, you know, throughout the day, like in the mid-afternoon, and then like a salad for lunch. And at that time too, we started eating like steamed vegetables. That's one thing that we were doing at night, was we would have like potatoes, and we were steaming like bell peppers, and like Brussels sprouts, stuff like that. We were steaming, and then we would have it with like avocado at night. And that was a dinner, like for a lot. We would just like make a bunch of stuff, and then just like all three of us would sit down and just eat it. Which that isn't really like that wasn't the bad part, but it was like the salads that we were still eating with all of the oil and stuff that was really hurting us still, because we were still having, like the acne and digestion problems and stuff like that. So shortly after we changed that to that, I don't even know how we started eating like a lot of mangoes at that
We
time.
started eating a lot of fruit, but I got a book because I was looking at ancient Egypt a lot, and they ate tons of fruit in ancient Egypt. And I got a book that it wasn't about eating fruit, but it said in the book that you can live off of figs, grapes, and some other fruit. But it was basically saying that you can live off of just fruit if you actually needed to, which just gave us that idea that really you can actually live off of fruit.
Right.
And then she started to look into it.
Yeah. So then we started making simple smoothies. So instead of putting like the vegetables with it, we started learning like how our digestion system works, like that a fruit is digested completely different than a green is digested. So putting them together really isn't the best thing. So we started having just fruit smoothies in the morning, and then we started looking into like, I guess, mono-mealing.
Yeah,
Really?
she found some blogs and stuff.
Yeah, about mono-mealing and how people said they felt like so great because your body just works so efficiently, just digesting this one thing at a time and not a bunch of different things. So we started eating tons of mangoes, and that was like, I think that was like the turning point where we were like, this is great, because he was eating tons and tons and tons of mangoes too, and he's like, I just feel really, really good, like eating that way. As soon as we started going, I would say like fully raw, I got pregnant, and in the beginning...
But yeah, that's right when we started not just going fully raw, we were eating all fruit. We were going to the store and just buying a bag of apples, bag of pears.
And we loved it. Like, we've always liked grocery shopping and stuff because since we moved here and started getting into like, eating the foods that we thought were like healthy and natural for us. So we always liked going there and like picking out stuff. But then when we started eating like just fruit, it was like exciting, like to go there and just not have to like worry about like everything else that was in the grocery store. We just like go to the produce, not even like really, like the greens and stuff, just the fruit, and you just like grab like tons of different fruit. So yeah, we really liked that part, and just the different variety and stuff. But then, so this was in the beginning of this year that we were eating like raw and fruit for the most part. And then I got pregnant in February, and up until that point, I was completely fine. Like, I loved eating how I was eating. My two favorite things to eat were avocados and mangoes, not together, but they were like my two favorite things to eat, and I was just really enjoying eating that way. We noticed our daughter, she used to be really, really sick all the time. And for probably 8 or 9 months straight, she had a cough that we could not get rid of. And at that time, we weren't using, like modern medicine either. We weren't doing like antibiotics or stuff like that for her. So I went to like a naturopathic doctor who gave me garlic, and we couldn't even get rid of her bronchitis. It would get rid of it a little bit, but then it would come right back. And the one thing that she heavily consumed was dairy. She had a lot of milk and, cheese, tons of cheese, and all of that stuff creates so much mucus. So she had, like this infection and stuff that she just couldn't get rid of, and it turned into pneumonia. It started to. And that's when I upped her dose on the garlic, and then I also stopped giving her cheese for like a couple weeks or something, and at that time we weren't even vegan. And then right after that, though, we went vegan, and her cough just completely went away, and she has never been sick since we started eating this way. There was like a couple times in the beginning where she would like wake up and like not feel well, or like have like kind of like signs of a cold or something, and then she would take a nap, and then sometimes a few hours later she would wake up and be completely fine. And then other days she would, like not be feeling well throughout the day, and then she would go to sleep at night, and the next day she would wake up completely fine. So that's only happened like two or three times, I would say. Now, I mean, since we started eating like raw, really, she has not been sick at all.
None of us have been sick since we are eating how we're eating right now.
Like colds, I mean, it was so common for her to get a cold, for me to get a cold. I used to be sick all the time. And that's one thing that's like really great about eating this way, is you just like, you don't get sick. I mean, you just feel good. Right,
because your body's naturally healthy. When you eat what it wants, it just stays healthy because you're not putting anything in it that makes it sick. You can allow it to get sick. Now,
I did get sick though in the beginning of my pregnancy, which threw off my eating raw. It was...
Which she was on birth control. She was on Mirena, which is an IUD. And she had it for the whole 5 years. She had just gotten rid of it a few months before we started eating all raw.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get pregnant, you get the morning sickness because your body wants to get rid of the toxins and chemicals in your body. Her body started just purging everything out as soon as she got pregnant.
It was terrible. I started having like major food aversions. I didn't want, like I was like living off of mangoes and bananas and just smoothies and stuff like that, which I was loving, and avocados, and I was loving eating that way. And then it was like I got so sick and I lost a lot of weight because I didn't want to eat anything.
Which a lot of that weight though was weight she would have lost anyways, just not that quickly.
Right, yeah. I've always lost weight, like, because like I said, I used to get sick all the time when I was younger and stuff, and I would have the flu for, like 4 days, and I could lose like so much weight in that short amount of time. So I've always lost weight very quickly. So yeah, I probably would have lost weight because it was just like, at that time of our transition into being like almost fully raw, that, and on fruit, that I got pregnant and started getting really sick. So I was throwing up anything that I could try and eat, which was really hard for me. I didn't want to eat bananas. I didn't want to eat, I was still eating like some salads with avocado. I didn't want to eat any of that. I absolutely could not stand looking at a mango being like cut open or an avocado being cut open, and those are my two favorite things. So it was really confusing and hard for me because I didn't know what to eat. But I really didn't even want cooked stuff at that time either, or like processed things. I didn't want anything. And it was also hard because our families were very, and some are still very unsupportive of just our lifestyle in general, and especially the way that we eat and the way that we feed our daughter. And it was hard at that time too because they're so against what I was eating, and then they saw that I was losing all this weight, which really didn't have anything to do with the way that we were eating. It was because I literally could not eat anything because I was so sick. So all they kept doing was commenting on my weight. You look so skinny, you look so sick, you need to eat something. Well, I would love to eat something, but I literally, I just didn't want to even look at food at all. I would lay in bed all day long. And that lasted almost my whole entire first trimester. Towards the end, towards the end of my first trimester, I started wanting food, but it was all the food that I craved while I was pregnant with my daughter. And these were things that I wasn't even thinking about while we were eating, like a mostly fruit diet. I really loved eating that way. And then all of a sudden it was like I didn't want any of that. I wanted, I ate a lot of like chocolate donuts with her and chips, like Doritos, things that I hadn't eaten in years pretty much. And all of a sudden that's all I could think about. I wanted like fast food, and I also started obsessing about my weight because everybody around me was so concerned about how I looked and how thin I looked. So I was obsessing about my weight. So then I had it in my head that if I ate these things that have like all this fat in it and like all these things that make people gain weight, if I eat them, then I'm going to gain weight too. So that was like a really, really hard time.
The weight she lost, she never gained back because it was all from the oils and stuff that was just in her body that would have came off over a period of time, but it just...
I did gain weight, like obviously.
From pregnancy, but not in her legs or arms. It still is all wrong.
Right.
That she lost.
So I really tried. I'm still working on it too, like even at this point. Like not having those cravings for like the junk and stuff like that, but I really think it's like such an emotional connection to it that I'm relating from my first pregnancy. And it was like I lived with my parents while I was pregnant, and one thing, like me and my mom would go grocery shopping, and she's very into like giving into cravings, just like most people are when you're pregnant. So if I wanted something, she wouldn't make me feel bad about it, like, oh, well, if you want that, go and get it. So that's why I ate, not just because of her, and because society tells you that it's okay to eat that way too while you're pregnant. So I just had like all these emotional connections to food while being pregnant with her, and then all of it was just coming up as soon as I got pregnant with this baby. And it was just stuff that I thought that I had let go of with food because I wasn't even thinking about it while we were eating raw. It was just until I got pregnant, and then I had just like all these emotions connected to it. So then in my second trimester, I was finally able to start eating like some bananas and still not really mangoes. I was eating some dried mangoes, but not like a fresh one, and still not avocados. And then me and my daughter took a trip back to Illinois, and my sister had her baby, and there it was kind of it helped me being there and getting over like my cravings and stuff, because for one, I was able to see how good we have it here compared to there, because there's like no fresh fruit, that organic fresh fruit for a decent price that you can get there. So me and my daughter were there for almost 3 weeks, and it was so hard for me to like buy our food because it's so expensive to just buy organic fresh fruit, and it was just very limited compared to here as well. Not that here is that great either, but it was also just, I guess because when I was pregnant with my daughter being there, and it was just good for me to get over that. Like I eat so different than my family, and I thought it was going to be really hard being there, and it was actually better than I thought, because I was able to see, like they're sick a lot and they have a lot of health problems, and we don't really see that here because we live here by ourselves, and the only other person around family-wise is his mom and sister, and all of our other families in Illinois. So we're not around like hearing people talk about their health problems very much. It's just pretty much us, and we don't have health problems, so we don't talk about that. So when I was there, everybody was always sick, and everyone's talking about how bad they feel and how tired they feel, and just like all these things. And I'm like, okay, this is why we stopped eating like that, and why we started eating, like this way. So since then, I've been able to eat more of the things that I loved eating when we first started eating a ton of fruit. And I'm still working on like getting over the cravings, but I don't think it'll probably change until I'm not pregnant anymore.
Of course it won't, if that's what you think.
But it is better. So that's where we are now. So now we're eating almost all fruit for the most part.
Yeah, mostly fruits. We were eating some salads, but we really stopped doing that too. She said she got sick of it, and
I keep going through like phases with this pregnancy, like, and maybe it's my body telling me, I don't know, but sometimes I'll like really crave just like spinach and just like dark leafy greens and have like big salads 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day. And then some days I just want like fruit all day, and I don't even really want a salad. But we completely cut out oils.
there's no partial foods at all, because when we were eating raw, at first we were still eating the different sugars, the nectars, and coconut nectar, maple syrup.
Right.
We stopped eating honey because we were vegan and didn't want to eat that, but other stuff was in place of it, that we were still eating sugars, but we got rid of all of that. No vinegar, nothing that is processed in any way, shape, or form.
Right. So our diet is really based on, I don't really like to call it a diet, but like what we eat is really based on, we try to do tropical fruits because those have the most calories. We don't always have access to the things that we would like. Like he really loves papaya, and a lot of the papayas just really suck. And it's just not worth it when you have really low quality fruit, because it's not going to give you, like all the nutrients that it really should be. So like right now, we've kind of noticed that like during the summer we were eating tons of peaches and nectarines and just like different kinds of fruits. Now everything's kind of going like really high up in price, and there's much less of a variety right now, and it kind of sucks. So we've been eating more of like the cooked roots and tubers and things like that at night, just when we don't have access to the high quality of fruit that we would like. But that's pretty much all we do.
Yeah, because I was eating a salad with avocado at night, but then I noticed that it still made my stomach feel heavy, and I would digest it fine, but it didn't make me feel good right afterwards that much. And since I stopped eating that, and I've been eating potatoes in place of that, I need something else, and it's been much better. I feel a lot better than eating a salad at night.
Yeah. And then our daughter, she gets pretty much the same thing that we do. She eats a lot more smoothies than we do, just because I think it's a lot easier to get in. Like there's a ton of calories in the smoothies that I make for her, and I think it's easier for her to drink that rather than to sit there and eat, like, because I put like 5 or 6 bananas in and a big mango, and usually we stick to like between 2 to 3 things in her smoothies. We don't put like a ton of different stuff in them. And then she likes, so she eats lots of smoothies throughout the day. And then she has access to, it's really up to her, like what she has. It changes every day. And some days she eats, like sometimes I look at her and I'm just like she eats more than me sometimes, and I just don't know how she eats all of it. And then other days, you know, like one day she'll eat all that, and then the next day she'll just be like very, just a couple things, not a couple things, but not nearly as much as what she had the day before. And we never question it really. Sometimes I do, which he has taught me, like she knows when she's hungry and when she wants something. She'll tell you. Sometimes I'll be like, aren't you hungry? Don't you want to eat something now? And she'll say no, that she's not hungry. So, I mean, she doesn't go all day without eating. So as long as we know that she's eating something, she knows what, her body knows what it wants and what it needs. So we just let her have access to a variety of fruits when we have it available. We were also eating a lot of watermelon in the summer, which was great. And now they haven't had any organic watermelons in the stores.
That's okay. We got about
So we have
5
some.
or 6 growing right
Yeah.
now.
So that was something else that she was eating a lot in the summer, definitely, is watermelon. She would wake up and have melon and cantaloupe. And then, so that was like her breakfast this past summer would be like melons. And then her second breakfast, I call it, is like a smoothie, a big smoothie with, usually her favorite is banana and mango. And then, she likes avocados. She doesn't like salads. Sometimes,
She doesn't like vegetables at all.
no, and she doesn't like a lot of things mixed together, which she never has. Like he said before, she was never into like meat, or like when I would make dishes with like a lot of different stuff in them. She never ever liked that. She always just like simple things, like one thing. So she likes to eat like just an avocado by itself, and then she'll have like sometimes just like cucumbers by themselves, like just things by themselves. She doesn't like to have like a big salad or anything like that. Every once in a while, if she sees me have a salad, sometimes she will just want like lettuce cut up with her avocado. But now at night, she's been eating a lot of like sweet potatoes and regular like yellow potatoes, and then every once in a while we'll have corn, and then she also likes to she always dunks the potatoes in an avocado too. And then for snacks, she just has whatever she wants throughout the day. She doesn't really like nuts, which I went through a phase of wanting to give her like more fats and stuff, which it didn't really work. I bought like a few different kinds of nuts, and they just don't really appeal to her. She'll like pick at them, and some days she does tell me she wants, like, we have sunflower seeds, or like we had some Brazil nuts, and so she'll tell me she'll want like a couple, and she'll just eat a few of them. But then, you know, like she knows what we have so that she can ask for it, but she mostly just goes for the fruit that we have, and those are like her snacks. She likes dates a lot too. So we don't really eat a lot of dried fruit just because it's not really,
Makes you thirsty.
does make you really thirsty. And she never really liked dried fruit anyway. She was eating like some dried figs when we had them, but we haven't been really buying dried fruit just because we feel a lot better eating like the fresh. We just always thought that like dried fruit was really good for you, but it's much more hydrating to just have the real whole fruit in its raw form. So that's pretty much it for her snacks, and then we drink water, and I drink raspberry leaf tea right now, and she'll drink a lot of that too. She really likes that, so I make like the sun tea of it. But other than that, that's pretty much tea.
My phone ran out of storage right at the very end, but we actually did say everything. I just wanted to add this on at the end. You can visit our website at naturalprana.net. where we are working on an About Us section that will tell us mostly what we just said here, but also more things individually about us. And she also has a blog on there that she writes some stuff on, which a lot of it we make videos about, but she's a very good writer, so you might enjoy reading it, how she's writing it. And make sure you like this video and subscribe, and have a good night.